Ashley Anglisano reporting for AVweb. You know, a type of aircraft often overlooked here at AirVenture are the ultralights, but one that deserves a little more attention was an Aerolite 103 flown by 14-year-old Henry Scott. To tell us more about his 7-day trip to AirVenture, here's Henry and his father William.
All right. My name is William Scott, and I'm here with my son,
Henry Scott.
And Henry flew his ultralight from Virginia to Oshkosh this time, Oshkosh 2019. The trip was 758 miles long. It took 32 trips with an average distance of about 24 miles per hop, and it took us 7 days to do it. So, and here we are. Before this, we had Henry flew a powered paraglider last year at Oshkosh. He came here the year before with a powered paraglider, but at 12 years old, they didn't know what to do with a 12-year-old flying a powered paraglider, so it didn't happen that year. I'm a commercial pilot, CFI, that type of thing. But basically on this trip, I was his ground crew, just to make sure that he made it here, had fuel, and had all the support he needed to concentrate on the flying portion of his trip.
I started flying when I was 11 in a powered paraglider, and this winter I started flying my Aerolite 103. And since it's an ultralight, I'm able to fly, but not too far, and that's the reason why it only goes 32. It took 32 hops to get to Oshkosh. So the first trip, my engine almost quit out because it was too rich and it stumbled and went into hundreds of RPMs and almost quit. But then we got safely to the next airport and we learned how to prevent that. And from there, it was pretty windy mountains, and plus the mountains amplifies that. It makes it really, really bumpy. And from there, it was just all about how to stay low and go quick. But since there's mountains, I had a hard time going over the mountains, and I had to circle around a few times to get over some pretty high ridges. From there, when we got to the plains, it was really flat. You know, it's got rolling hills till then a flat, just flat. There's no other way to explain it. And then from there, you got other people who are interested in the plane. You can see it from miles away, and so they expect you to come in, and then there's a checklist from there.
So I chased him the whole way in a Toyota Sequoia to keep, trying to keep up with him. But throughout the entire trip, he beat me to every airport. So 30 out of the 32 airports, he had to navigate to cold. He's never seen those airports before, so he had to get in the pattern and do all that stuff by himself. I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly where he was at all the time, so I used what's called a Garmin Insight. InReach. A Garmin InReach that communicates with the Iridium satellite system and sends up his position to me or to anybody who has a link every 2 minutes. So that was my fallback way of determining where he was and making sure he was on the correct path, headed in the right direction. He had the Bose A20 headset with the Bluetooth that he connected with his phone. So every 5 minutes or so, I would call him, and I would say, "What's your engine temperatures? What's your cylinder head temperatures? How's your fuel looking? What's the weather like? What's the visibility?" Just trying to keep an eye, because because of my greater flying experience, I wanted to make sure that if he was running into anything, that we could do something about it right away. He navigated principally by GPS using a now ancient Garmin 196, which was perfect. We just updated its database and it worked like a champ, the entire way. And it communicated with just a handheld Yaesu 550, coming in and out of the airports. Most of the days were 4 to 7 hops, and we would just meet him. I'd run out to him with some fuel, tell him what his next destination, airport was, he would verify. Oh, he had the Garmin D2 Delta on his wrist, so he would verify that so he would put the waypoints in both the Garmins, and then we would go through this verification. Do they both point in the same direction? Do they both say that you're going the same, airport? So we didn't, we had a bit of parity and redundancy there too. And then I would just say bye, and he would start up his, flip on the fuel pump and start up the engine. It's a pull start engine, so he would just pull start it and go. And then I would be going as fast as I could to get to the next destination. The range limited it to 45 minutes, so I could always take an update on the weather and see how the weather was evolving over time.
So in ultralight, weather is very important, since if it's too windy, you can't get to the next spot since there's too much headwind and you're not going quick enough. So we checked the wind and see if it was calm enough to be able to go far enough. Or otherwise, if it had tailwind, we just go higher and go quicker and try to get as many stops as possible. We did run into a little popcorn storm, a little blips of storm kept going in between our next destination and us, and from each other side it was all clear, and this is just unlucky little train station right there. And so we had to wait it out, and that day we only got 2 little hops in, and not much else happened on that day. But from the rest, we just checked for weather and wind and see if it was good, and we said when we need to go past here before the next storm can hit and comes and hits us. The Aerolite 103 is different from most ultralights, as it has a yoke and flies like a normal GA aircraft today. And it's very light and it performs similar to a small Cessna, sort of speak. It doesn't really glide well, but it's very nimble. And it's bare and bones as it comes to flying.
So it's we bought it from Aerolite in pieces. We had to assemble it. The wings came fully built, but we had to assemble the wings, put on the empennage, and put the pieces together. It took about an hour to assemble the airplane. It's made of anodized aluminum tubing and sail material for the wing coverings. Very simple. It's an old Kawasaki 440 engine that produces about 40 horsepower, although you might say, detuned it by putting a lot of prop in there so that it runs at a much lower RPM. Our idea was, since we had more horsepower than we really needed, I really wanted to get reliability and range out of it. So we tuned the prop for a super cruise as opposed to climb, and even then it's got plenty of climb, to handle our weights. We weigh about the same at this point. It has all the conventional controls of a small airplane. It's got flaps, a yoke, and so forth. So, and that's one of the reasons I chose it to teach him how to fly, was because everything here would have a perfect analogy with other airplanes that he was going to fly, going forward. I wanted him all his habits to be transferable to other aircraft as he moves on. So other than that, it's been a very reliable platform, to get us here.